Helen, thanks for making time to speak with us today.
Pleasure.
You've recently become the Federal Safety Commissioner, and getting that role, what has surprised you about that role? What have you found what have you discovered that you didn't expect?
The most obvious thing to me, I guess, was the absolute diversity of attitudes towards safety within the building and construction industry. At one end of the spectrum were the workers and the companies that really saw OH&S as an impediment to their business. They saw it as bureaucratic, complex legislation. And I guess the most concerning thing for me was that they saw OH&S as a cost, but without having the benefit coming from that cost. The other end of the spectrum for me was really encouraging to see that there were real businesses out there that were pouring resources into safety and had a genuine commitment to developing a safety culture within their organisation. And by that I mean that there was true leadership commitment. They were prepared to invest resources, train people, there was communication, and they really cared about the people that were working for them. And as Federal Safety Commissioner, my role is to try and bridge the divide between the lower end of the spectrum and get them towards the best practice end of the spectrum of those companies with the great OH&S culture.
The Australian construction and building industry is heavily unionised. Have you found that the level of safety varies from unionised and non-unionised workplaces?
Interestingly, I haven't actually seen any evidence of the different safety practices on union versus non-unionised sites. And that is probably attributable to the fact that I only go on site visits to our accredited companies. Now, when I'm talking about accredited companies, I'm talking about those companies that have gone through a process of gaining accreditation to the federal standard, which is considered one of the highest benchmarks across Australia. So as part of gaining that accreditation, they have to prove to us that they do have senior management commitment, that they've got consultation practices in place, that they train staff, and they're actually changing the culture. So they're more concerned about behaviour rather than just meeting regulation. So while unions are obviously very important to that whole consultation and communication process, the fact that in accredited companies we already have that commitment and the environment that allows that communication, I think it's probably not as evident, because even where unions aren't on site, there is a mechanism for communication and the feeding up of those issues back through to management.
Helen, of the safety management elements in the building and construction industry, are there many that could be taken up by other non-construction industry sectors?
Oh, look, I think when you look at the principles, it can apply equally across any industry. Certainly, a couple of years ago we launched our Leaders in Safety Guide, which was tailored to the construction industry, but the feedback that we had from other people that had picked it up off our website was just incredible. And we're really thinking now, we wish we'd charge for that publication, because it would be really keeping us going for the next few years resource-wise. But certainly just those types of things like leadership behaviours, communication, consultation. Another important thing that's been picked up outside of the industry is actually focusing on the clients as an important part of this relationship as well. So if you've got a client that places as much demand on getting something done on safely as well as on time and on budget, that's something that obviously can help improve the overall culture and doesn't rely just on the industry participants to take that onus on themselves.
Helen, do you remember your first job, and do you think it was a safe job?
My first real job, I guess they're all real, $18 for, I think it was about 20 hours Sunday work at Hungry Jack's. That was a safe environment, I think, purely because it was very process oriented and there were strict guidelines. So it was a good example for me. My first full-time job was in customs, which of course is an environment that is, you know, quite dangerous. Boarding ships, you know, going on patrol, working at airports, so a whole range of hazards to deal with. And again, I think because it was that type of environment, there was a strong focus on safety. And I eventually ended up being the OH&S manager for customs in South Australia. So obviously it was something that I was attracted to, and what can I say? Very good record in customs for safety.
Well, thanks very much for your time today, Helen. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.